This episode of the Talking Bit podcast is brought to you in part by Gigamov. Check out www.gigamov.com for all your pop culture news from up-and-coming journalists from all over the globe. That's www.gigamov.com.
Hello guys, how are we all? Welcome to episode 12 of Talking Bit E3. How are we, boys?
Quite
Pretty
cooked,
excited actually.
but excited about E3. Yeah.
It's a solid E3.
We've got lots of shit to talk about. Looking at the sheet here, we're going to be talking about Dragon Fighter Z, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Mount & Blade 2, Kingdom Come Deliverance, Hunt Showdown, Pillars of Eternity 2, Call of Cthulhu, Age of Empires Definitive Edition, and an honorable mention on Marvel Spider-Man. Before we do all of that, though, we do have a giveaway happening, Cam.
Oh, yes. It is giveaway time again, ladies and gentlemen. So this time we have 3 awesome CD keys to give you guys. So all you have to do is follow the link in the description below to our Gleam competition. Go in there, follow the task, get as many entries as you can, and go in the running for a chance to win one of those 3 keys. I'm not going to mention what it is because I want you to go check it out for yourself and see if it tickles your fancy.
All right, so let's get straight into it. Cam, do you want to take us through Dragon Fighter Z? That's what you've got down
Dragon Fighter
first.
Z. Oh, this game looks really, really good. So, Dragon Fighter Z, and we're going to throw up a video in the background here of the actual gameplay session that they revealed at E3 for it. This is built by the guys who made Guilty Gear X. So what we're seeing here is actually a 2.5D fighter, as they call it. So essentially what that is, it might be 3D sprites, but you fight on a 2D plane. Your character can't move in like a 3D environment, which is awesome.
Holy shit, this looks fucking cool as.
It looks so good. One of the best things about this is it's 3 versus 3. So I think this is going to be awesome because this is going to rival Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which is coming out later this year. And that's like, those are my type of fighting games. I love any games that have like a tag system so you can have, more than one character and switch them in and shit. So I'm really looking forward to this. I love the speed of it, the combat. It looks really, really good. And the art's incredible.
Art
Like,
is
look at it.
The art.
Late 90s art.
Yeah, it's like it's unreal how cool that is, especially after like watching Dragon Ball Z. That is like that.
Yeah.
See, this is what watching this now. This is what I always wanted from a Dragon Ball fighting game. Like
Exactly.
the 2.5D, like the 2D plane fighting. This just looks so damn cool.
Yeah, from my perspective, I've been waiting for a game like this because this is all you needed. And I think fighting games have evolved over time with Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom all to give you the speed. People are used to the pace of the game at this point, and you can easily execute that with a game like this for Dragon Ball Z, which is a rapid, fast-paced fighting anime. So in that regard, this is perfect. I think this is great, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm happy that they've moved away from that freaking Budokai and Tenkaichi and all that stuff where it was like 3D angles and shit, and the Xenoverse where they tried to have like that Omni 3 MMO style where you created a character and you flew around and fought people. It's like, nah, just give me solid fighting game based in the Dragon Ball Z universe with tagging. With tag.
Yeah,
It's funny because they've had so many come out before this.
Yeah, I know. They were dropping them like every year, like almost.
It's crazy because this looks so good, right? If you've watched the show or you've read if you've watched the anime or you've read the manga, like this is such a cool rendition of that brought to a fighting game. It's kind of nuts to think that this is the first time that they've done it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time they've done it, right? Like a 2.5D.
Yeah, 2.5D, you're right. The older fighting version games that were like this were back on the SNES, which you had like Dragon Ball Z Hyperdimension and whatnot, but they weren't as fast. They didn't have the capabilities to be like this, and these are like 60 FPS games as well. So you've got the input and you've got the smooth frame rate, so that really helps in allowing you to keep up with the pace.
Yeah.
like even as the other character enters, having that little, just the little details, like how the characters come flying in once one's down, and then they clash, and then they go into their fight just to keep that pace going. It's like, it's so good.
They're the things that are selling me on this. Watching it right now, like it obviously looks really smooth. It looks really well polished already, but it's all the effects from the anime that they use in this, and that really neat, like. I guess 2D anime art assets combined with the 3D ones as well. It looks so cool.
No, that's exactly it, man.
Original artworks,
That's exactly it.
Original styles.
I want to feel like I'm actually playing, like I'm playing the show, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
That's what this looks like.
I'm playing the show, and it's just exactly that. We don't need the 3D and the flying around. They easily got destructible environments in that. In that, you saw that Goku or Frieza can launch a massive attack. You go from a planet view, and you see like a big explosion. And then you go back into the battlefield, and the whole thing's ripped up, like the Namek saga when Frieza destroys the planet, and you get to see it all go into that lava-filled, chaotic planet setting. It looks really, really good. So that's one I'm definitely looking forward to. Is that something you say, Marty, would actually pique your interest? Because you don't play many fighters, or any, do you? You're not
the
really
last fighter I played was Marvel vs. Capcom. And that was back
the original
in 2006, 2005.
So how do you feel about seeing something like that?
Well, it pretty much looks exactly like Marvel vs. Capcom, the kind of style. The way you tag in and out with the heroes as well, besides the fact you have 3 instead of 2.
So it's something that you'd probably play?
I'll definitely give it a beta if it has one.
That's a good point. So yeah, that's a game that really was a highlight and a standout for me at E3 for sure. So there's not much to say about it beyond that. It just looks really cool. It's hitting all the right buttons.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's hitting all the right buttons. It's taking on a game that kind of had in a kind of a niche spot at the moment in the fighting game industry, and I think it's great. It'll be really good to see this game kind of come up there with like Street Fighter 5 and stuff, and be a common appearance at tournaments, because I'd really love to see what the pros can do with this game.
Okay, so take us through your next game. We're just gonna run through them in this order, because I think it suits us to do it. So Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Battlefront 2. Oh man. Okay. Did you guys play Battlefront 1?
Yep.
Yeah, for about a total of 2 hours, and then I couldn't get a game after that.
What did you think of Battlefront 1 before? Just like quickly, what did you think of it?
What, the marketing was fantastic.
Was that why you played it for 2 hours? Because the marketing got you, and then you're like, oh, damn it, they got me again.
Played it at PAX, kept a keen eye on it,
yeah.
Bought it, and then couldn't get a game after a few days.
What about you, Nate?
I tried.
Yeah, I had the same experience with it, and it was a really fun game too. Like, I think it had some early balance issues, but to me, it looked like a really well designed and thought out game that had been released way too early in terms of what content they actually had readily available for it. And I think the community followed that straight up. Like, there just wasn't enough. You could play after you played for that initial like week, 2 weeks. The entirety of the content had been absorbed by you. Like, all that was left was to unlock skins and shit for classes. And I think it was way too early in that front. I think I remember saying to Marty, the only way this thing survives now, very early on, was through hectic DLC programs. And they're obviously in a pretty sensitive spot at the moment. EA have been a big offender with DLC programs in the past. There are obviously some devs that offer extensive free DLC programs. Shout out to CDPR. So why? I mean, you obviously play Battlefront 1. Why is Battlefront 2 here for you? Like, on your most anticipated of E3?
So, see, the issues for me with Battlefront 1, and these are across the board for probably anyone who played it, was Battlefront 1 just didn't have enough content, especially on launch. The game looked great. The gameplay felt nice. It was well done gameplay and all. It just didn't have enough. Everything, it was like 4 maps, and it was just no single player campaign. Yeah, no single
thin
player
as hell.
campaign, and it was just diorama mode and all this shit. It was just absolute bare bones. It was like, oh, here's an
Space
engine
battles in the marketing.
with here's an engine with a proof
Yeah.
of concept on top of it to showcase the engine. So apparently, from what I've seen, is EA's taken a lot of that feedback on board, including the DLC part. And what really was really cool is they're looking to what they're looking to do in Battlefront 2 is they want to take all three eras. So they want to give you the prequel era, so episodes 1 to 3. They want to give you the original era, which is episodes 4 to 6, and they also want to give you the new era, which is episodes 7 to 9. So you're going to have a chance to actually play content from all those eras, and you'll have characters like Kylo Ren's going to be in it, Darth Maul will be in it, you'll have characters from the Darth Vader and whatnot, the usual Boba Fett, the ones from the original episodes 4 to 6. So in that regard, that hopefully fills the gap for content. You know, there's all these big promises about having that, and everyone's like, yeah, we're looking forward to it. You know, EA's listening to us. And the gameplay actually looks really cool. They showcased at E3 battle on, on Naboo. And they had vehicle combat, and it looked really cool. Like you could play as one of the droids, so you're running around as one of those.
You're playing as droids, stormtroopers. That's what they're showing in it. I think it was smart of them to obviously show Naboo, because this is a stark contrast to the maps you experienced in Battlefront 1. Like this is the busyness that is, like I said, it's a complete contrast to 1. So I don't think that was an accident that they're showing this.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly, I think they're trying to show that they've taken the feedback from the players and they're really acting on it, and they're really trying to push, giving us something that completely shows that they're listening and that they're not going to let down this IP, because this is a huge IP to take on, and you can't screw it up. You cannot screw this IP up.
Well, you'd want to have taken on the feedback from the fact that nobody played the game.
Exactly. One of the other massive selling points that they're pushing is that the first season of DLC is going to be free. So if that's the case, and I know initially they sold it. This is how they sold it, as free DLC for it, right? They didn't, and then later in fine print, it was revealed that the first season of DLC is a bit sneaky on that part. Props to them for giving free DLC, but kind of a little bit of bullshit there with the whole first season and then the rest of it's paid. You know, like it's good.
I don't like that it's a season either, because I think if DLC seasons have indicated anything in the past, it's that using the term season without any kind of description on it really doesn't say, you're going to get this many pieces of free DLC. What if the first contains 3 and the second season is very long and it contains 8? Like it needs to be a set amount of DLCs, and I just don't understand why there are, unless these are major DLCs, I don't understand how people will get behind, continue to get behind FPSs where it's like, a pack of guns is a DLC, so you get 3 packs of guns free, and then when we drop a whole new fucking map and 9 different modes, that's the part you'll pay for. That's fair enough, but that's an expansion. The DLC thing, I won't go into it too hard, because there's other shit on actual Battlefront that I want to talk about.
No, but I agree. That's one part of that. It's a bit of a what's it called, a bait and switch there with that line, which is really irritating, because everyone's been fighting this DLC thing for a long time. Everyone in the gaming community, they think it's stupid. They think it sucks. Games have DLCs announced. They're like, freaking Destiny 2 has 2 DLCs announced before the game's even out. It's like, nail the goddamn game before you announce DLCs. And it's just this ongoing trend of bullshit where it's just coming up all the time. And, props to EA for trying to give us some free content in that regard, assuming that the game on release is good enough to be considered a full game. Now, if they give us a half-assed game and then turn around and go, oh, we're giving you first season free DLC. No. We don't want that bullshit. We don't want, like, you're going to give us half a game now and then you're going to drop half a game later and then tell us, but we gave you free DLC, and it's just all a marketing ploy. This game needs to nail that it's worth its full price point on release. And so far it's looking good. It's the features and the things they've lined up is hitting the right kind of points and what we were wanting, but it better live up to the hype.
Living up to the hype.
Living up to the hype in the sense
tentative, I'd say, probably.
It's more in the sense, I think, when I say living up to the hype, I'm talking about the fact that they're saying that we've listened to you, and they're constantly harping on about showcasing things that shows they've made a change from the previous game, and that they've taken community feedback and implemented those changes into this one, right? And that's all they're showing. So it's like, okay, cool, you've done that, but if that's all you've done, then we basically created the game for you. We've done your game designer's jobs. What else have you got beyond that? Show me where this feels like it's Battlefront 2 and not just Star Wars Battlefront, what I should have been.
It's probably what it will be.
Knowing EA. Probs.
If it is a complete Battlefront 2, everyone will be like, it'll come back around anyway and be like, this is what Battlefront 1 should have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think honestly, if you look at the trailer, I think what it shows straight away is that this is much more a Battlefront game in the lines of the old Battlefronts than new Battlefront 1 was, which that felt like a Star Wars skinned battlefield. And if you watch especially that fight on Naboo, that looks like a Battlefront game. You have multiple different units you can switch through there. They have different little abilities. It doesn't just feel like It's honestly feels like a pretty big departure from what Battlefront 1 was in the newly released games. So I think this definitely will be, what Battlefront 1 should have been. It's just, I don't know. I guess if you bought Battlefront 1, you can't help but feel like this is a bit of a slap in the face, because the game you bought was, I'll say, dead within a month. I really didn't. It was only a few months after purchase that literally you were queuing for hours at a time to even try and get a game. It died that quickly.
In Australia, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess on that front, it does feel like a bit of a slap in the face that, oh, wait, here we go. We're only what is that? Like 2 years down the track?
Yeah. But look, if I'm basing my expectations, if I'm basing my judgments off purely what I've seen, I'm not going to lie, it's looking pretty damn good, because what they showcased looked really good. The Naboo fight, the Naboo battle.
Well, to be honest, it's all you can do is, look at what they've presented so far, and obviously it was compelling enough for us to be talking about it right now. I definitely think it looks better. I think it looks way better. This looks much more like a game I'd like to play. But again, is this, Battlefront 1 didn't look as thin as it was until you got it. And it got very close. It got very close to the game being out, and then people were like, wait a minute, there's very limited content announced. Like, we've just seen the same few maps. How many maps like this, like what we're seeing right now, how many of these scenarios is there? If there's a prequel era, an original era, and a sequel era, how many
are we just going to get like one map per era?
Yeah. What is actually involved? That's the danger of something like this. You don't know how thin it is until you go in. And props EA, free DLC, blah blah blah. EA, in my book at least, still have a lot of fucking rungs on the ladder to climb before I'm just going to, yep, this looks like a very solid release and something I'm interested in. With EA, I'm just wary like that. And that's not to take anything away from what they've displayed. This game looks really fucking good.
100%. And I completely agree with you. And I'm on the side of great about the DLCs, but I want to make sure and I want to see that this is a full game on release, that it is worth its price point before I even worry about complementing the free DLC or any shit like that. This needs to be entirely a full game on release.
Yeah.
As we all hope. Probably will get there. I'm going to say this is going to be what Battlefront should have been.
Yeah.
They would have taken Battlefront.
I know they don't have the actual star battles in this, so they're not having that, which is something that everyone's been crying for, which was in the original Battlefront 2, I believe, the actual galaxy battles where you'd be in space shooting each other down. So that's one thing that's not in this on release.
On release, fuck, don't they have that in trailers anyway? Shit in the
what for this one?
No, they had it in trailers for one, and remember they weren't that fully fleshed out. They were still quite limited. I don't know. I don't know. It does look good, but yeah, you know, I won't keep repeating the same crap. It's just we'll see when it's here, I suppose.
Spacey to me. That screenshot. Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA.
I guess
space battles. Why the fuck do you have a screenshot like that?
Yeah, I mean I guess it's a thing you could debate for a long time. Like I think a Star Wars game should have star battles. It's a big part of the series, right? It's some of the most epic moments in the films. I don't understand how you release a game without them.
Just give us one. The accounts.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are going to have space battles on release. But I heard something along the line that there wasn't going to be space battles or something like that. Maybe it's an extended part of the system where maybe they'll just have the space battles, but then maybe there's an extended system people were expecting where you could conquer galaxies or regions through these space battles or something like that. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But
it's probably it's a fair expectation. I think it just, until it's announced, you kind of got to temper it, don't you? After Battlefront 1, you have to temper it. And not just, I won't just keep picking on Battlefront 1. There's fucking heaps of games that you would assume certain features or scenarios or settings will be available, and they're not for whatever reason. DLC programs, feature creep cut that went wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what. There are tons of fucking offenders. So,
well, the funny thing of E3 2017, a bit of a theme that was running with it, and is that a lot of the games that are coming out are basically making up for what was basically released as a prototype engine in their first iteration. Destiny, you've got Battlefront, you've got to some extent Shadow, the Lord of the Rings game, Shadow of War, because the first one was basically just an engine. That was a game that I just felt was just too short. And then also on top of that, you got games like Call of Duty, where its last release was just a pile of shit. So now they're going boots to ground again with the World War II. So it seems to be a bit of a running theme this year, where games are trying to actually say, no, we're a game. We're not just an engine. Here it is. Here's what the game looks like.
This is probably something we should actually split out and talk about in another episode, because it's a really, I don't think you'll just see it at E3 2017. And before the cast, you know, we were talking about the Xbox One X and iterative console releases and stuff like that. I think the nature of development and the speed at which people consume games right now, it's a really quick growing market. Mm-hmm. I think that you're just going to see a lot more shitty releases in the future that really should have been prototypes, or they were just a demo for the engine.
Yeah, just a tech demo, right?
Early access culture to degree is to blame for that. And again, I go back to DayZ and the fact that we're I don't know, like 6 fucking years on, that's still in alpha. It's a part of the industry that, I think we should honestly split it out and talk about on another episode. It's a pretty hectic thing to actually analyze.
No, it's true. It's exactly that. And but moving on from Battlefront, we got Mr. Meatbagg. Take us into your little topics here that you're looking at.
My realm of my abode.
Your first one is great because I wanted to talk about it, but we're already here. You've slotted under yours. Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord.
This year, the game that probably had the biggest impact for me, but should have had the biggest impact probably last year or the year before. Actually, the year before was Witcher 3.
Yeah.
So I've been looking for that void of Witcher 3 to get filled again, which is going to be extremely tough. I mean, Witcher 3's left a lot of massive benchmarks and standards in the industry that people are just going, okay,
good.
Let's not touch the RPG game until 2018, which seems to have happened at E3, because everyone's like, yeah, we can't do anything that
except
good,
Nintendo. Nintendo couldn't give a shit with their Xenoblade Chronicles and stuff.
Yeah, well, I guess you could say like different demographics, maybe potentially going for them, but yeah. So Mountain Blade 2, the next game I'm talking about as well, Kingdom Come Deliverance. they both look like they're trying to deliver on the kind of experiences that Witch has given industry. And I mean, if you look at Mountain Blade 2, just as a little bit of context for you, it's just a sandbox action RPG strategy hybrid game. So you basically play as one little guy clip-clopping around on a horse in a fully sandboxed game where you have Rhodoks, Nords, Kurgits, Vagars, and Saranids that you can all join. You can all employ people from all of them, from all of the different fucking towns and nations all around the place. They all have different types of units that you can use. So whether it's specializing in spearmen or horse archers, ballistics units, heavy artillery, or knights, for example. They all have their own quests, their own faction reputations, their own lords. So it's just an absolutely massive game being set.
So what, like it has like a loyalty system or something built in?
There's a reputation system.
Reputation, yeah.
For each faction. So depending which one you put your allegiance towards, and depending what princess you marry, and who you fight for, who you start taking over places
which
for.
Which princess you marry.
Yeah, because you can't.
The thing
Old
about
school
Mountain
diplomacy.
Blade, yeah, the thing about Mountain Blade, if you haven't played it before, is like there's such a huge military. Would you even say military? Like a lot of this is simulator. It's a lot of simulation. The combat is very simulative. It's meant to be realistic. The sandbox world, you navigate that political landscape very realistically for the age. It's a lot of simulation involved in the game.
A massive amount of simulation, yeah. I mean, it's basically trying to simulate an old school kind of environment where you clopping about on a horse. You're doing old school diplomacy.
You're doing old school slaying people with a spear.
Yeah, but it's got really like kind of rudimentary systems for that whole kind of a game. I mean, you got to pay your wages to your army. There's a chance that they can revolt against you and kind of leave.
A mutiny.
They can get sick. Yeah, mutiny, that's the word I was looking for. They can get sick, for example. You need to feed them so that you can upgrade them constantly. There's a lot of different kinds of smaller micromanagement. It's all rudimentary, but the game's absolutely massive.
So what is it in Mountain Blade 2 that you're actually, like, what's piqued your interest, or what's like some of the things you're looking forward to?
Well, to be honest, I'm looking forward to more Mountain Blade. It's been so long since they released Mountain Blade 1 that everyone's been kind of asking when the hell is number 2 coming around. Didn't hear anything from it for the last 2 or 3 years. Everyone's just like, all right, definitely got to hear something about Mountain Blade 2 this year. All right, nothing. Well, guess we'll just keep playing Mountain Blade 1 then.
Been such a long time coming.
Just keep waiting. Yeah, they just said absolutely nothing, and then in the last year-ish, it's been slowly starting to dribble out, and then this year they've really just dumped it on us.
Which is
year of really having gameplay videos.
It's a godsend because it looks like Bannerlord looks absolutely awesome. And as Marty said, the Mountain Blade games are enormous in scope in terms of all the systems that are there, the mechanics, what you do, how long a game actually lasts, because it is a sandbox, and it has very smart, predictive AI, and games go forever. It's a huge game in scope. It's really fucking enormous.
It sounds like it has a very complicated systems, but they're very intuitive, and they integrate well with each other to give you that experience.
Creates a really unique formula. Like Marty said, he's just looking forward to more Mountain Blade, and it sounds weird, but there's not a better way to put it, because if the ideas in the game interest you, you play it, you realize very quickly that there's no other formula that exists like a Mountain Blade game. It is a unique blend of genres and systems that it's just Mountain Blade. Like Marty said, it's just Mountain Blade. There's nothing else like it. There's nothing else even close, I don't think.
No,
maybe the closest you would get is like you know, a creative assembly total war game. That's literally about as close as it gets, and even then, that's a far departure.
Yeah,
well, is there anything
departure.
significantly different from this one compared to the first one?
Completely different engine, I guess, from the predecessor. So that there's now complete motion capture for character animations, facial animations, portrayal, clothing and stuff like that. So just the little tassels and stuff that hang off their spears and their banners, they actually flap about with a physics engine behind them rather than just rudimentary left, right.
The funny thing about it is because the Mountain Blade formula is so unique and how the studio have developed it, and you know, it's probably a good idea to look into the studio too, because they're very, very small. If I remember correctly, it's actually a husband and wife that first made this game just by themselves, the two of them. The thing was with the original Mountain Blade that it was so open and it was so moddable. I mean, there are a huge amount of mods that exist for it now, like total conversions to Lord of the Rings and all different eras of time and armies and Warhammer and all sorts of shit. There's all sorts of crazy mods for it. The systems are so open and so diversely moddable that the whole time you playing Mountain Blade 1, you were like, Mountain Blade 2 should just be this, but with, you know, a really high quality engine, because it was such a small studio developing it with very limited funding. The original game kind of sacrificed that department, you know, graphics and animations and stuff, and still came off being an absolutely amazing game with like great, like it created a bunch of fans that are absolutely wild about Mountain Blade. So. The biggest feature in this is almost just the engine alone, because the original game had so many systems that operated correctly. You really didn't think, this could be iterated on and be explicitly better, you know, by a total revamp or something. And they obviously have. There are things that are different in this, but the original game was just so good at what it wanted to do. Seeing Mountain Blade 2 as good as it looks in the trailers that they've given is just like, yep, that's fucking exactly what I want.
Yeah,
it's Mountain Blade, but with like just effort and money thrown behind
more
it.
Mountain,
like,
more blade.
Shit. It's like a proper engine put behind a proper clothing system, a proper crafting system, proper siege system, better AI. So it's literally just Mountain Blade with money put into it that they've gotten back from Mountain Blade, which is
probably like
fantastic.
a more expanded or a true realization of their vision initially for what they would want it to be. Which is great.
So many small little things.
Which is great from a workflow perspective, to see something like that evolve, to see potential in the original, and have a studio actually get funding to be able to actually fully develop their vision, and then we get to play what they wanted to make all along. You can get these really unique experiences out of that. So whilst you're managing to mount your blade over there about Mountain Blade 2, Thy Kingdom Come, Thy will be done with the next video that Marty's going to talk about, which is Deliverance.
I was really hoping this would come this year, but I'm still hoping Mountain Blade 2 will come this year, so I don't have to, you know, choose when I'm going to be playing this game or that game next year. Well, at least for a period of time, because whilst Mountain Blade 2 is going to scratch the whole Mountain Blade 2-y, sandboxy, medieval kind of diplomacy and everything kind of system thrown together, this game is probably the closest game to maybe Witcher 3 that's going to be coming around. Basically, it's supposed to be a realistic game, which is a departure from Witcher 3 instantly, and most of the other high fantasy RPGs that we have. I mean, realistic in the sense that it's actually supposed to be realistic. It's supposed to be sickness, health, steel weapons, and swords.
That's an interesting part to go down.
It's meant to be like, you know, medieval Europe, right? You know, no
1408 Bohemia,
so no magic and dragons and
none of that.
No,
it's
pure realism.
Basically D&D without the dragons.
Yeah, so this is what it would be like to have existed in those times.
Basically, that's what they're trying to replicate. So it's 1408 Bohemia, which, for people who don't know, that's basically like Czech Republic, Germany, Poland, Switzerland kind of area. Bohemia. So basically, before the Teutonic Knights happened, all of the German Republic, as you know it, Austria, Hungary, and all of that started to come around, and the modern age, the Renaissance era. Before all of that, and it was the kind of, more people might know it as the Dark Ages.
One of the big focuses of the game is in its dedication to realism is obviously the visuals are hyper detailed. It's it's an incredibly good looking game, at least in the trailers and from what people have said in hands-on experiences, but it also has a realistic combat system, so directional based swords, axes, etc., medieval weaponry.
Horse combat.
So
Well, it looks like you can even create your own or develop villages and stuff like that, or develop your own kingdom. Is that right in my understanding, or it doesn't go to those
I don't think
extents?
it's going to go into the sense of as far as a kingdom, but you definitely have the options. Well, basically what they're trying to create is an endless options kind of
You have influence then over how the world evolves.
So you have reputation and charisma, and that can influence and investigate, for example, crime, or you can influence and investigate for the police, or you can influence and investigate against them. So you might be able to go with the bandits in and around the towns and the villages, or you might be able to work with the towns and villages to be more prosperous. There's an example of your reputation and charisma influence.
I just saw a guy fall off a ladder.
honestly,
actually get pushed off the ladder on the siege. So I like games where this game shows parts of it, like when you're crafting and all, and coming back to your original point, Nath, where you were saying that direction matters when you're attacking and fighting, but then also when you're crafting, you're actually controlling the sharpening stone and the blade to improve your weapon. So it looks like all aspects of the system isn't just a point-click upgrade. It's actually, you have to get involved in that.
I think the idea is to, they obviously dedicated a lot of this idea to the realism of the period. So they've said, fuck it, a realistic combat system is something we really need and want in this game to add into that. So let's go all the bells and whistles too, crafting, lock picking.
I think one thing we're lacking is just a true fantasy realism. Any RPG game, everyone always has that high fantasy twist, which they try to put their own context, their own little type of magic or whatever it is, or alchemy or sorcery, wizardry, whatever it is, pagan rituals that they do, smear blood all over their faces for power. There's always some sort of a context. This is it's cool to see a game that's gone, all right, let's just try and keep it true to history. And cool at the same time, because history was cool if it's done right.
It's a beautiful time for games like this, because after games like For Honor and all, where they're starting to lean towards hand-to-hand combat being more tactical than button mashing and who's quicker at pressing button A, B, C, I'm really liking that it's allowing the scope of these games to open up, and it's not all about having a game that's pretty and particle effects and you got magic and all this fancy shit and your sword lights on fire. You actually can get pure satisfaction out of the fact that you tactically or you maneuvered your way to be outsmart another NPC or player.
It was one of the beautiful times a few years ago when Kickstarter kind of came around, was when chivalry kind of birthed that kind of style of games that we're seeing coming around now. The whole directional parrying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing more and more games.
This is, Kingdom Come is shaping up to be one of the Kickstarter games that really deliver hard on their promise. And they've obviously had a lot of additional funding since their successful Kickstarter, and a lot of even backer funding since then through, their own backer portals. But this is one of the true greats, even in idea, about things like Kickstarter. And the passion I at least personally have behind it is when ideas like this come up, and a developer knows that they want to develop something for a niche, they can put it out there and boom, here we go, we have a game like this. It's being shown off at E3, it's gathering huge hype, it looks brilliant. The idea of it is appealing to a ton of RPG gamers and people that have looked for games like this. But around the era that things like this were coming out, if you didn't happen to be a small studio or an indie studio with enough money to do something like this, you were just fucked. That was it. This wouldn't have made the shelves. If the Kickstarter thing wasn't around and there wasn't a platform where they could have pitched this, and nerds like us couldn't have thrown in money for it, something like this wouldn't have existed. So to see it here is really awesome.
In the flesh, yeah, actually lived to its promises. Absolutely delicious engine. It's fantastic to see.
Yeah. There's a beautiful aspect to games like this, and it's probably what even games like the original vanilla World of Warcraft capitalized on. It's that sense of exploration and the reward you get of actually exploring on foot or on horseback without having some sort of quick travel system and whatnot, being able to just almost have to learn your surroundings, like you move to a new city, in IRL, and you're learning your surroundings, you're starting to get familiar with streets and areas and whatnot, and that's what I'm seeing in this, and that's what's always so it's so compulsive about it. That's great. I love it that you feel like you've got this huge world in front of you and you just want to go, oh, what's in that direction? I wonder what's over there, and you're rewarded for that exploration, and that's what it looks like.
Well, one of the things they've really wanted to flesh out in this game is that you're basically going to be overcoming obstacles in multiple ways, whether it's diplomatic skills or your own brute force. So whatever you're deciding to do, you're going to be facing the consequences through the game, depending how you want to play it. So beautiful landscapes. Now, there's going to be apparently a couple of range of periods through the 15th century, so depending on the choices, the types of lords you go with, because they said there's castle sieges involved in the game. Depending whether you assault castle X, Y, or Z, it'll probably traverse 10, 20 years into the future and show you the consequences of what you've done in that land and what those lords have done. I kind of assume. Because there's going to be they're supposed to show the development of relationships and reputations and how you influence the greater story.
It looks tasty.
Yeah, it's cool. It's things, mechanics and tropes like that in RPGs like Kingdom Come, like, all of the CRPGs you see popping up, that I guess you have things like Kickstarter to thank for, purely because the reason those things were cut from games in the first place was people didn't have time, or they weren't interested. They wanted to experience the game, but they didn't want to have to go through all that hard work. And, you talk about the casualization of games. Well, the more hardcore elements of games and games that focus on things like, exploring, actually putting in the grind and the work for even, I guess things that could be inconsiderate in the large scope of the game, they're back around because of things like that. You actually have the power to vote with your wallet now in platforms like Kickstarter and Fig. So yeah, it feels like a sweet reward to see this game coming along so well, because the chances are, if it's good, we'll get more of them, and I would love more games like this.
Well, the great part is it isn't rushed. I mean, Alpha was released to backers in 2014.
Jesus Christ,
Beta was released back in 2015
cycle
to Kickstarter backers. So that was ages ago, and we've only really started to hear news about it this year.
It's something we've been talking about in multiple episodes, but we really need this sense of experimentation in the games industry, where they're not just popping out the same formula year after year because they know it's a guaranteed sale, that they're willing to take the risk and create something new and create an experience that isn't fleshed out already, so we can try something
different. Though. The small companies don't have the money because they got to put the food on the table with the money. Yeah, it's coming in, it's quicker, and the bigger tables, the bigger
realism of
companies
it, isn't it?
need to satisfy their investors and their shares.
But then, at the end of the day, what happens to the industry? This industry will just become just pure corporate, as we can see the direction it's going in, and the passion all behind it from the beginning is all going to be lost because of that mentality.
It probably makes sense why I shit on so much about Kickstarter and crowdfunding and things like that, because I literally consider it the savior of the industry. Like, there are so many ideas, so many themes for games, game mechanics, and just new ideas that have come about through Kickstarter. Even where these things have failed, it's shown the developers or the publishers, investors with
guys.
big money. Yeah, that there's money in this. We fucked this game up, and people paid us $5 million to do it. They didn't even know what they were going to get, but they paid us $5 million to absolutely ruin this game. And you better believe that AAA devs would be like, wow, dude, they made 22 million. Their game's an absolute failure. Like there is, there's money in this. Yeah, the survival. I mean, Marty's just done the best task of bridging to his next game here. The survival games are up and about, and it's because of things like DayZ. That was an absolute ruin, but one of the most popular games that you can have in your library right now is PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. It's the it's the ideas that were taken, filtered from Arma and from DayZ, and then from H1Z1, and boom, here we are with the most promising of its genre so far. And DayZ was a complete failure. It still is. Like, it's nowhere. So it's in that regard, I've gone way too far from the original point, but in that regard, Kickstarter is just, I see it as responsible for a lot of things like this, which is why seeing Kingdom Come where it is it just feels good. The sentiment I definitely share with Marty is like, I wanted that game this year.
Something else that might feel good is the next one on your list, this new survival game. Marty, you want to take us through it?
So this new survival game is probably going to be one of the first games that's really, I mean, there's hard games to compare to it. There's games that take elements from the Hunt, but there's nothing that's really gone the full way like the Hunt. That's why I'm really interested to see how this game goes. That's why it's on my list, because there is nothing really to compare it to. So basically, to give you a rundown on it, it's basically a cooperative game, 5 teams of 2 players, and you're basically bounty hunters that go around a large map that will be rendered and I think semi-randomized, so locations might change. So a certain objective or a bounty might be in X building and it'll be in Y building next time you play through, with 5 different teams.
Wait, so to clarify, the maps are procedurally generated, or just the location objectives can change, or both?
I think it's going to be a static map, but the location of the objectives will change.
Okay.
Bit like Left 4 Dead in that sense.
Yeah. So it's basically set in the late 19th century, so something like 1886 or 1890s. To give you, say, the future, so the weapons and classes will be reminiscent of that sort of an era. So you'll probably be thinking like maybe kind of witch hunter-y kind of stuff, late witch hunters.
Gunpowder kind of weaponry.
Yeah, slow reload, and one, you got to like make sure your shot counts, precise shot.
Yeah.
So it's like this survival kind of horror game, co-op, first-person shooter, bounty hunter game where, to put it into the whole kind of arc of what the player does, I mean, you'd load in with your other cooperative person, you'd slowly go around the map looking for clues, and the clues would slowly work their way into wherever your main bounty is, and the bounty is always going to be a mini-boss that you fight. First one that they've revealed at E3 is a large kind of spider boss that's living in the attic of a barn. And they've revealed, because there's going to be 4 other teams of 2, where you basically have to make the constant choices of, are you going to take this objective now? You're going to reveal to the whole world and the whole surroundings around you that you're doing the boss, because obviously by gunshots, grenades, there's going to be a lot of light going off and stuff like that. And if you want to take that risk that somebody else is going to assault you whilst you're doing that objective and steal it from you. So it's that risk-reward kind of gameplay that you'll constantly be measuring up while you play through each map. I'm not sure.
This is why I think this is so fucking cool, this game, because it takes the risk and reward mechanisms that are present in all the other survival games at the moment. You talk about DayZ and H1Z1, PUBG. The risk reward is always, normally going for whatever kind of engagement you're going for. As soon as you go for it, you are also exposed. And in survival games, where you live or die by a bullet or two, it's a huge risk because you don't want to be eliminated from the game. Survival games are super competitive and super popular for those reasons. So this is like, I don't really know how to describe this. Like, you've got the survival element, you've got this really cool, almost Cthulhu-y vibe. You've got like a bit of the forest almost going on here. It's a really cool mix of survival elements and bounty hunter elements. There's not really anything else like this at the moment, and
it's a massive amalgamation of a lot of games that have come out with this style. I can see elements from almost 5 games I could list off the top of my head that have spawned this. But I do love the idea. I love the fact that it's 5 teams of 2 players. It's not the typical 4 versus 4 or something. Like, you're actually split into, and especially for like how many of us nowadays game with the time we have and all, it's how often can you find a group of 4 people to play with, or 3 even. Like, you're usually just going to play with one other buddy. And I love the fact that they're capitalizing on that you're just a team of 2 players who probably are in sync. You play all your games together, and this is perfect for that. You just go up against another 4 teams of 2 as well. And beyond that, I can see elements of like Call of Duty Zombies in this, Left 4 Dead. I can see elements of what's that other survival game that came out recently? The one where you play as, there's 4 people running and there's a killer trying to kill all 4 of them. And they're trying to escape.
The Friday the 13th game.
There's a bit of that. Not that. There's another one similar. Something Dead by Daylight or something like that.
Yeah, Dead by Daylight.
Yes. So elements of that I can see. I love, and I think that awesome part of it is got that DayZ influence, but it's just flipped it on its head with the horror element. Like, this game actually is giving me the creeps just watching the video.
It's a very cool looking game. Like, it's this creepy, like, kind of.
It's grim. I think that's the best word for it. It's just pure grim.
Kind of place.
It's like first dawn grim. It's like first person grim dawn for me. A lot of the aesthetic and
long, dirty trench coats and shit.
Yeah, exactly. The witch hunter from Warhammer looking characters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's cool because it's just a completely different game, and they're trying something new, as we were talking about earlier. There's a lot of games that are cool in there, but this game really stood out for me. Just so different.
And again, it goes back to my previous point, where a lot of games are starting to move down this route of capitalizing on the tactical gameplay rather than worrying about the button mashing and the quick firing and the twitch shooting. This is a very tactically focused game. And yes, you have guns in it as opposed to swords and all, like in Kingdom Come Deliverance and Mount and Blade. But again, your shots count. And you need to make them count, otherwise you're screwed. It's not about bolting in, guns blazing, and just trying to rip the boss apart. You actually have to play really tactical. Like, these guys are just sneaking around and trying their best not to make a noise, And
that's probably the most DayZ element of the entire thing, the survival game aspect of it. I mean, all survival games are like that. You have to be, they're so climatic, they're so exciting because every shot does count. You literally, your time in the game is decided by 1 or 2 well-placed bullets. And in a game where you're on the hunt for loot, you're down on resources, this is like the ultimate version of that. You've got to navigate not just through fucking 4 other teams of people that are trying to kill you to win. You've also got to navigate through getting these bounties, these monsters in the environment. You've got, in the same way that you use lighting and things like that to win and survive in survival games, they've flipped that. This is really stylized. It's very horror-esque. You can see the lightning flashes and, there's a bit in the trailer where a lightning flash goes off and that's what reveals another player to him and then he shoots him and, yeah, it looks so damn cool.
Supposed to be on edge, yeah. All 5 teams are on edge.
And you actually have an element of, like you're saying, so you take out the boss and through gunshots and light, people can see where you are, but then you got to banish it, which reveals the banishing to the whole location and everyone just starts flocking to that spot. So you end up being forced into the PvP element of the game. It's not just purely, they got there first,
Yeah.
It's actually forcing you into the PvP element.
Mm-hmm.
God
And you
damn,
have to
man.
banish it and then extract yourself.
It's freaky. They're shooting the spider in the barn and they have like torch lights. It's just pitch black and this spider moves at Mach 10. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
it's gonna be horrible.
This setting is so cool.
Just
The setting is
across the screen, man. It's like
Yeah,
freaking
it's so
1990s horror movies. It just reminds you of that shit. Where they played on, because they couldn't make things look freaky, they just played on the aspect of the unknown, the fear of the unknown. That's
Well,
exactly what this game's doing.
to me, it's really goddamn smart because for all the reasons that survival games are already very climatic and exciting, this just doubles down on it again. It's like, yep, those mechanics and the fragility of your being in those games is already exciting in itself. Now we're going to just slap this absolutely gnarly horror layer over it. We're going to have these gnarly beasts. You're going to be in this rotten setting trying to fight your way through, storms and lightning and torchlight. And they just intensify it with the theme and the other ideas they add to it. Looks
It's very
really
smart.
cool.
Is pushing it into that, and there's how many games have really pushed that aspect. Like you got PUBG. Was it PUBG? Yeah, PUBG, yep. And you've got DayZ and all, and that's just like, you're just taking on other people. So there's no real horror aspect of or fear of the unknown in that. This really has that element of the unknown. So you're not only dealing with the fear of being taken out by humans, you've also got to deal with all these monsters and demons, I believe, is what you're hunting.
Probably, yeah, they looked horrid.
Jesus. Just pure horror, man. It's just grim, but it's good.
Yeah.
Speaking of grim and horrid and freaky,
yeah.
Call of Cthulhu.
See a bit of a theme developing here. Call of Cthulhu. I don't know if you guys have watched the trailer for this one or if you were particularly interested yourself. Have you ever been into the Call of Cthulhu games? The whole
I know it's influenced a lot of stuff I have played, so I am interested to see it at its source. But no, I have not actually actively pursued this.
See, it's one of my favorite settings. The Lovecraftian mythos and all of the Call of Cthulhu stuff, especially, has just been a huge part of everything I've enjoyed in RPGs and RPG settings. So seeing Cyanide come around and give this a good hard crack, the trailer is absolutely packed to the brim with the grim, nasty Lovecraftian goodness that you'd expect from a Call of Cthulhu game. It's very they're always kind of grim in a way that they're very mentally challenging. You're usually going to be subjected to some pretty fucked up shit or fucked up ideas, and they really try and break you with stuff like that. Even the books have a large degree of that, right? A real mental play on them. And this trailer just looks like all the goodness that you'd want and expect from a game like that.
Yeah.
They didn't reveal heaps of stuff about it. The Call of Cthulhu from Cyanide, and I say by Cyanide because there was a Call of Cthulhu title in the past, and this is kind of like a remake or a reboot or something to that degree. It looks really good, looks really authentic, and the reason it's on my list is not just the setting, but I think Cyanide have come a long way since they first started, and even then, they had some really great ideas with games like Styx and stuff that they didn't really have the experience, I don't feel, to follow through on. So it's a mix of
how's this
going
going
to
play?
Like a puzzle game.
Is it like a Alone in the Dark style where you got very minimal ways to defend yourself and all that, and you're just kind of thrown into this world where you got to figure out what's going on?
I mean, a lot of the games in the setting are like that because it's meant to be a very, lethal, scary. You're meant to be, you really are made very vulnerable by the ideas and the beings and the things that happen in the mythos and in the stories. So this is like a first person RPG. There'll definitely be like a lot of puzzle elements and stuff to it. Almost in the vein of some of the early BioShock stuff, just because that's how things from the Lovecraftian stories tend to go. They're games like that. The games that come from those settings in the past have been like that, and I don't think this one will be any exception. It's a big part of it, almost like, you know, in the same way that they really make you vulnerable in games like Amnesia. This is very, you know, this is very much the same. Amnesia was very in line with things like this, I think.
Again, it's going back to this theme of removing the brute force element, where brute force just isn't enough to get you through encounters anymore. Seems to be a running theme.
In games like this, absolutely, you can't just kind of barge your way through the horror element and, you know, just blow things away. And I don't have to deal with, you know, how terrifying or, you know, thought-provoking this thing may be. I just have to shoot it with a rocket launcher and it goes away. And
you must embrace the horror.
Yeah, you're vulnerable in this. There's a part in the trailer where a cultist is like grabbing you, and the cultist is wearing some fucked up mask, and you can see the shadow beings in the background, and then the vision of reality shifts, and it's actually a scientist that's holding you down in his lab. It forces you to feel vulnerable. You're meant to feel awkward when you play through this. It's meant to challenge you.
It's meant to send you to a mental asylum when you're done playing it.
Yeah, as fucked up as it may sound,
it's
that's
actually marketing for mental asylums because they don't have enough patients. They need money. It's purely that.
Funnily enough, the other games always end up in mental asylums, because if this kind of stuff were to happen to you in real life, that's where you'd be put. That's how it is, and it's kind of almost breaking that fourth wall in a lot of the games stories in the Call of Cthulhu Lovecraftian settings. You know, they're meant to be they focus on madness. They are really meant to twist you up. They're meant to be really broken, twisted experiences. So Call of Cthulhu is, one of the big ones I'm taking away from E3. Been looking forward to it for ages, and that was just a nice, tasty little helping.
It looks like you're going a bit medieval again after this, huh?
I mean, come on, you can't. This surely had to be on everyone's radar.
So I guess this is just like, hey, Age of Empires HD did real well. I've got a good idea, guys.
Let's forget Age of Empires 3 happened. Let's go back to the one that actually went well.
Let's just call it the definitive edition this time.
I think it's it is really correct. Like the HD edition obviously did well enough that they thought, wait a minute, there's still actually embers. There's embers. There's embers.
Yeah, come on, a little bit left.
It's 100% correct. Like, they're obviously when they released the HD editions, people went, wait a minute, there are still enough embers at the bottom of this fire that we can light this back up. But this looks like a much more. I mean, this is
cool.
Yeah, this is.
It does have new zoom levels.
This is literally 2017. HD was cool, but it still didn't feel like 2007.
Yeah, see, this is why I think
on mobile. This is like mobile graphics now. We're talking some serious shit here.
I mean, this is like, these are obviously fully upgraded models. Like, I'm sure
it's a whole new engine, man.
Yeah, it's a new engine. It's running in 4K, and what this is to me is this is just an absolute brilliant. Like, all you dudes that are like, 27 to kind of 30-ish right now, have a fucking look at this, mate. Like, bust.
40-ish.
Yeah, 40-ish. Yeah, way older, right? I'm bracketing that audience way too much. Like, this is order a pizza with your mates and have a game of fucking Age of Empires like you used to. But I think this is really smart because the HD releases were smart in themselves. This is smarter again because it's obviously a level of fidelity that the HD editions didn't have. This is a really good recreation of the game, and you didn't need anything more to enjoy Age of Empires in this day and age. You just needed it to be visually represented in an appropriate way. Age of Empires was an absolutely storied game. Like, that is a fabled game, Age of Empires.
Yeah, it was solid. It didn't need to be improved upon in terms of gameplay or anything. It was just had a solid
it just nailed that type of RTS. Like we said before, that Mountain Blade was Mountain Blade. Age of Empires is Age of Empires. It's a blend of RTS that is, first of all, ancient. Like, there are very few good RTS games now, and this is one that people have been proven to like. Like, the Age of Empires system for an RTS is awesome.
So what do we do when it's proven to like? Flog it. Just flog it. Give it a good flogging.
I would rather
bring 2 definitive edition.
Dude, like
3 definitive edition.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Like Ashes of Singularity and stuff like that, I'm not about it. But this RTS, I'm going to play. There's no doubt at all that I'm going to play this and buy this and play this.
As long as I can be the Persians, I'm happy. Because I remember they were in the first one, but they were in an expansion, weren't they?
That'll be another interesting thing. What content they include in this? Will it actually be an Age of Empires, 1, 2, 3 definitive edition, or will this just be Age of Empires definitive edition, a blending of all the games in a great engine? I think this is a super smart move. I think this is going to sell like fucking hotcakes. I really do think this is going to sell like absolutely crazy.
It was good fun, man. It just reminds me of the old school days when we used to play like Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness, just with a bunch of mates. You'd either land it up or, God forbid, you somehow magically manage to get online working and play against a friend over the net and stuff. But like those were like just so simplistic days when you used to do that shit. It was just good fun. And that's what I hope it reinstates. It's just that fun. It's not too competitive. It doesn't get to that level of really macro, micro, and it gets really, really like deep, and you have to have like elite uber pro skills to be able to play it. Just get in there, like you said, order a pizza, slap a game, Age of Empires.
Yeah, I think this is just gonna be a nostalgia engine through the roof. They say that they've got a lot of new gameplay and stuff like that there. I think this is a mashup of the Age of Empires games in a representation like this. Visually, you can't go wrong with that. There's no way.
Well, you can see that they're not trying to deviate from the original gameplay a lot. Like the frame rate even of the new models is still quite low to give you that old school feel. That old school animation feel.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I took from the trailer, and looking at the gameplay,
the
I could
pacing
see
of the units. Yeah, it's all the same, and I think that's the reason it's really smart, because it's all they're making it as authentic as possible while they remaster it. Put it on the new engine. They're not trying to deviate. They know exactly where and why their formula was good. They're not trying to depart. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's just, here you go, guys. You like the HD edition of these other games. Here's the definitive. Like, just go wild. Just go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Ring it out.
Yeah, ring out the last of what Microsoft can pump out in terms of games like this.
In all fairness, Age of Empires 2 HD edition wasn't like horribly priced. It wasn't like they were asking for like $100
I bought them both.
So
I bought them both.
Yeah. This effort for something like that. Knock knock Blizz Diablo 2, but yeah, it's not bad. Something different, something familiar.
The thing that I really like about Definitive Edition is that there's some articles going around that basically Bill Gates was had a big responsibility in seeing this game come through. And at least to me, it's really cool that he's even gone back and been like, wow, this was a really good game we made. Like, people enjoy it. Let's actually put some effort into this and put it out. I mean, it's great for them. It is. Yep. It's juicing it. It's wringing every last fucking drop in the sponge, but why not? I mean, there are people doing that with games like Battlefront 2, in which we have to sit and basically just warn ourselves to keep our expectations in check. This is a tried and true game. This is an absolute golden formula.
What next? Dungeon Siege getting remade?
I wouldn't actually mind seeing Dungeon Siege remade.
Neither would I. I
feel like the older Dungeon Sieges, not like Dungeon Siege 3, because I don't know what that was.
I think that they would have a really hard time like competing with just dungeons, like the kind of games that run in that similar vein. But I'd like to see it nonetheless. And this is Age of Empires Definitive Edition is like the dawn of remasters. I'm gonna say from. I know that sounds like a dumbass comment because there are obviously already a lot of cracking remasters out, like StarCraft. But I feel like this is almost the opening of the floodgates. I honestly think the next big one you'll see is Diablo 2, and I'm hoping even Diablo. But I think
probably before Diablo 2.
I doubt you get Diablo after the bullshit they pulled with that anniversary stuff. I'd probably say Diablo 2 is much more likely. And honestly, it's a better play. I'd say you're better off pulling off Diablo 2.
Well, yeah, I agree because, Diablo 1 it goes back to that CRPG type gameplay that is, our days a rarity. Even for all the Kickstarters and, games that are on the horizon, Diablo 2 is a much bigger game. A remaster of that makes a lot more sense. But as a fan, I would love to see both. I'd like to see it, like Marty said, in that order. I'd like to see D1 remaster and then a D2. I'd play the shit out of both of them. But I think you're going to see remasters are obviously having a bit of success. I think this is just the beginning of seeing big titles like Age of Empires come back to remastering, not in here's a HD like, fucking Baldur's Gate enhanced edition and shit like that.
You're right. It's more about having the capabilities now that we didn't have back then for a game that would have succeeded in the environments or capabilities we have. So like Age of Empires having true online play that we couldn't get seamless access to before, same with like StarCraft, I guess, in that regard. That was kind of more on the verge of when it was already out. But even Diablo 2, having that full seamless online play would be so good because you struggled for that back when it came out, but it would have enriched the experience so much.
100%. Battle.net, the iteration of Battle.net on Diablo 2 seemed really sufficient at the time, but it really wasn't long before World of Warcraft and, the development of Battle.net for that. And then you started to realize, holy shit, online systems are completely changing. You had things like Steam popping up and services even like Raptor back then, and Xfire, the original platforms for communicating cross games. And then it just absolutely shit on,
which is still around today.
Yeah, it just shit on what Battle.net was or provided back then. So I'm pretty confident that Age of Empires Definitive Edition is a good thing, and I think you're going to see a lot more of it. You're definitely going to see some absolute flops try and get milked, but that's the great thing about remasters. It's very hard to look at the sales numbers and go, yep, it's worth putting another $2 million into this game and remastering it because it had a great following. You're not going to see that of a lot of games. I think Bethesda are almost at the point where, their RPGs are sucking balls so hard that you'll start seeing remasters of maybe Elder Scrolls, maybe
You've
Fallout.
already seen it, man. Elder Scrolls Online. What was the latest expansion that just dropped? Morrowind. I know it's not like a remake of the game, but the fact that they are taking the game back to something that they knew was a massive success, they're trying to milk the name of it instead of making it completely different. It's like if World of Warcraft created an expansion tomorrow called Tides of Darkness that took us back to the events of that because they knew that was successful. That's exactly what they're doing. And it's already started. Exactly what you just said. They've already started it.
Yeah. I think it's just... it's weird, man. We could dedicate a whole episode to this. I swear to God, like it's a part of the evolution of the industry. There's just so much shit kind of tumbling around at the moment that people are like, wait a minute, BioWare released Mass Effect and that suck balls, and Bethesda released Fallout 4 and people fucking hated that. And, all these games getting absolutely crushed and everyone's just in the forums jerking off about how good Age of Empires was. And boom, here we go. It's Age of Empires Definitive Edition in 4K. Like you asked for it, boys. Here it is. Oh, Diablo 3 sucks ass. Like, I just want Diablo 2 back now. Like, this is bullshit. Boom. There you go. Diablo 2 remaster, boys.
3 is 100% on the decline. Even with the Necromancer coming out, it's on the decline. And, they've got a team making something new, which is probably Diablo 4 or some shit like that. and
First person Diablo. Calling it now.
God, please don't be a first person.
I'm calling it now, dude. I'm calling it right now, dude. I'm telling you.
And please don't be. I know they were in the advertisements. They were looking for people with MMO experience too. So please don't be a World of Diablo craft or some shit.
Do not.
I'm
fuck
happy
with me
with
on
my
that idea, man. Overwatch has so many skills, mechanics that could be converted into a Diablo-like FPS. Is not even funny.
How could you have a first? So what? Like a first-person dungeon crawler? You're thinking?
Of course, dude. Like, do you remember? Was it Hellblade when Hellblade or Hellraid?
Heretic, Hexen.
Nah,
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying. Do you really?
This game, I'm gonna link it here for you, right? Like,
is it really going to be worth taking it in that direction?
It was going to be made by Techland, right? I'm going to link this in Discord right now.
The thing is, at the end of the day, like from a business perspective, as shit as Diablo 3 is, it still dominates its genre. Nothing comes close to it business-wise, commercially.
Nah, that's not true at all, man. Like,
it is.
Globally, Path of Exile is smashing. No, it doesn't make more money than it.
That's what I meant, commercially. So Blizzard seem to have this trend where they try to dominate each genre. Why would they just drop one genre completely? Unless they're doing something with Diablo 2
They did that with Warcraft, to World of Warcraft. They've got Hearthstone now. They've got Overwatch.
Yeah, but when they did Warcraft to World of Warcraft, they had StarCraft owning the RPG, not RPG, what's it called? Freaking RTS genre already.
But they were different kinds of RTS, right? Like I think the reason I think it's a legitimate possibility is with the moves that Blizzard have made lately, and I'm calling Destiny 2 actually being the biggest one here. They've shown that they're not at the point now where they're afraid to kind of roll the dice a bit with the platforms and what they've got going on. And if you look at how many games like Dying Light, Skyrim, and Oblivion, again, perfect examples of games that use magic and swords and shit like that in a first-person environment and are hugely successful. Then you look at games like, go back and look at Hunt, go and look at, compare all of that, compare the popularity and the willingness to play and consume those games to how absolutely relevant some things in Overwatch are, in terms of how you could tie the gameplay mechanics of Overwatch to something like a Diablo first person or even a Warcraft first person.
Do you really think it would be first person, or do you think it could be third person?
I think it could be both.
True. I'm thinking you know what, I'm starting to, after what you mentioned, if you start thinking about the new Mythic Plus system in World of Warcraft, that's a good pilot for testing people running the same content over and over in a third-person RPG-ish environment. So
I think it's a strong candidate because you honestly don't even need the data. Like, if you can simply look at something like Overwatch and go, this game is fucking smashing it. They've nailed that engine. Like, they have just crushed it with the Overwatch engine. They have nailed that to the floor. Then they look at, all you have to do to look at whether people will play repetitive content is look at Diablo 3. Still making money. It's been up there for a long time. It absolutely sucked in its initial iteration, but people stuck with it the whole time. And they just do the same shit every day. They just run Guardians. They pound like 1,000 of them a day. They don't give a shit because they enjoy the setting and they enjoy how well it's pulled off. Like, maybe it is like a real far leap to say that, a Diablo FPS is coming. I think that they've got all the tools on hand. I think they've looked at games like Warhammer Vermintide. There are so many examples, man, where people are really willing to jump in and do repetitive content like that in that kind of setting. Vermintide's a great example. That's that's a lootish game. That really is Diablo-esque. You go through, you do the same shit, kill the same monsters, do the same scenarios, but you keep doing it, keep grinding loot, you keep getting quicker. Mythic Plus, like you said, it, like, all the tools are there, man. I'm telling you, I don't think it's that big a stretch.
It's not. Yeah, it's a franchise that's worth, like, it's not a shit franchise. It's just that the latest iteration of the game was just subpar. So they can definitely do something awesome with that universe. It's an awesome universe.
Exactly, dude. It's the beauty of it, right? Blizzard are in a position like no other developer. They've essentially, fucked Diablo 3 up.
They dominate every market they're in. They dominate every market, like, in terms of genre.
They do, but it's
I'm not
not
saying
the
they're number
angle I'm
one.
taking here.
I'm just saying like they're dominating. So they, yeah, like you're saying, they're probably at a stage where they're like, okay, it's time for us to roll the dice again, because we're getting too Activision-ish, even though Activision work partially owns or whatever. Yeah, they're too in a position where they're like, we need to start rolling the dice again. We need to start being more experimental again, like our true roots. You know,
yeah, well, I look at it. I look at it from the other angle. Like they've fucked Diablo 3 up. That was a great franchise. If the remaster rumors are true, it obviously shows that you know it's bleeding. They're doing something to restore that to glory, because they want that franchise. They want, you know, new air in the lungs of that franchise. You've got this great IP. You've got this absolutely titan of a name in the games industry that you've just fucked up. Why not? Why not just go, yep, all right, we're going to do a fucking Diablo FPS, and this is what it's going to be, and this is how it is. I mean, you've seen the postings that the whatever project they're working on is an FPS, and it looks to be different to Overwatch. So it could be another IP again. I don't know, but to me, it seems like they've got franchises that are hurting across the board. Their new franchises are doing well. The Overwatch engine is like, you know, you would be forgiven for thinking Blizzard had been making FPSs for 20 goddamn years after playing that. I think at least all the tools
next level, isn't it?
It is. It's crazy. It's Blizzard polish. It's the Blizzard polish you've come to expect.
Let's hope we see something at like BlizzCon this year, some announcement beyond just the same old shit, you know, patches or something. We want to see like a whole huge thing.
Diablo HD or Diablo 2 HD.
Yeah.
Well, we were hoping for it last year, and all we got was Order of the Necromancer. I am calling the Amazon as the next class in freaking Diablo 3, though.
Yeah, it will be. Well, it was released for HOTS as well,
yeah,
right?
That's why I'm calling it. 100%. It makes sense, though. It makes sense. It definitely makes. So there was another game that actually I wanted to give an honorable mention to. I wasn't too, even Nate, you were sharing this this sentiment. I wasn't too keen on this one, but I just thought I'd give it a quick peek, and then it actually surprised me in its quality and all. Which, Marty, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but it's the Marvel Spider-Man game that's coming out, made by Insomniac Games. So the reason why I wanted to give this a quick mention is because I love the fact that the gameplay in this has taken influence from games like Arkham Asylum, maybe Splinter Cell as well. Yeah, it's got that stealthy. Yeah, it's got that stealth aspect to it. I wouldn't say stealth, I'd say tactical aspect to it, where you can't just brute force your way through as Spider-Man, and you got to be tactical. You got to use Spider-Man's abilities to your advantage, where you string enemies up, you attack enemies in a certain order and web them to restrain them from being able to overwhelm you. Because I think it's a great use of the Spider-Man IP and a great use of the Spider-Man engine. So I don't know, what do you think, Nate? How do you feel about it?
I wasn't expecting anything spectacular from this. Even though it was being developed by Insomniac, I still expected a bit of a cheesy squeeze on, Spider-Man coming back into the MCU, and Tom Holland's, I guess, but he elbowed a lot of popularity into Spider-Man, right? His performance in Avengers. So at first I thought it was just going to be like, a real cheap pull on that. But this actually looks like a really good game. Like it has got a real Arkham, Arkham X, all the Arkham games. It's got that vibe about it. Insomniac have said that they're going to be doing something similar to the early Spider-Man games, which are obviously brilliant. You're going to have different suits and stuff, which give you different abilities and shit like that.
Loved. That game, I think the one they're referencing, the one on the Dreamcast and PS1 and all that.
Yeah, it was on PS1, and it was brilliant. So this was a pretty surprising game. Like, looks like a lot of fun things going on here. Unique uses of the web mechanics that, probably look a bit similar to the Arkham games, but your actual movement around the city looks really unique. The way you're slinging webs and slowing down and retargeting them, and jumping across buildings, almost a bit Crackdown, a bit it just looks fun. Just looks like a really well polished,
very satisfying to press a button. That's what I like. It just looks so satisfying to press something. And what I like about it too is, even though they're taking on the the typical like as Arkham Asylum play style. They're even pushing it beyond that. So you've got one thing with Arkham Asylum that was a little frustrating, if I'm being really critical, is it was a little slower than I'd wanted. Whereas this kind of bridges that gap because you're Spider-Man, you could just web sling around the place. So not only you're tactical, but you've got that element of speed in it. You're just zooming around, getting shit done. You get to interact with your environment because you are superhuman, whereas Batman isn't. You can, web a crane like he does in this gameplay video and just smack the guy down with it and whatnot. So you got that superhero element of fun in there as well, where you get to see a lot of like over the top shit that makes you feel really good when you do that.
I hope that this kind of inspires more games based on maybe surging, movie IPs or characters or something like that focus more on the hero's unique abilities. Like the focus in this, when I watch it, is how you move as Spider-Man. Like it's a very Spider-Man game. You sling around, you're constantly using your webs and your general Spider-Man abilities to maneuver the game. I want to see more games like this.
No, I agree with you. I love the aspect that they've really shaken it down to the core and said, okay, how would Spider-Man deal with this situation as opposed to how would Wolverine deal with this or how would Thor, you can feel the uniqueness of the superhero. Whereas if you play a game like Marvel Ultimate Alliance or whatnot, where you get an arsenal of Marvel heroes to choose from, your approach is always the same, brute force, just run through and just beat the shit out of everyone. It's just Spider-Man does it in his way, Thor does it in his way. Whereas I think games need to really take this on. They need to, if you're going to have like a game based off the Avengers and you play as Captain America, I want to feel like I'm him. I want to feel like I'm dealing with situations like only he could, or Iron Man for that instance, how only he could. He's not the strongest hero in the Marvel universe. He has certain advantages and he has certain disadvantages, and you have to manipulate the environments around you to cater to to become strengths rather than be weaknesses for you.
Yeah, so, pretty much, man. Couldn't have nailed it.
I just think that this game might be PS4 only, from what I'm seeing.
It looks like a console game.
So that would kind of suck because I'd like to play this on PC or whatever I actually have in the house, as opposed to having to go and pick up a PS4 just for it, which I won't do. But no,
it's very Spider-Man as well. He's not killing anyone. He's kicking them off the building and then shooting them.
That was awesome, mate.
Booting him in the head.
So he boots him off.
Drop off the building.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Awesome. Can you let him drop? He just grabs him and just slams him to the ground. But yeah, the web slinger part's really cool. So it looks like you got this. You got a few QTE event sections as well when he's chasing. So I don't know how much control you have over web slinging around the city yourself. It looks like you do have a bit. And then you got a few QTE moments where you've got to quickly input something so he does something fancy and continues on with the objective. Pretty nuts.
That is, to be honest, the only reason I didn't bother putting this on the list is because, like you guys said, this is a PS4 exclusive. Insomniac's games in the past have largely remained exclusive if they're released on a platform. Be it Xbox, PS4, PC, doesn't really matter what. They tend to say exclusive to that platform. So there's no point in me being hyped for this because I'm not going to buy a PS4 just to play it. I don't buy fucking consoles or platforms just to play one game.
Agreed. That's exactly why I just wanted to give it an honorable mention, because I think it's the few points we made where it's a good dedication to really understanding the character they're making a game about, and not just basically going, oh, he shoots webs, let's just make a brute force game where he shoots webs and beats everyone up. They've really nailed.
Let's just copy and paste Arkham Asylum, but you're Batman. Exactly. Spider-Man instead of Batman. Yeah.
Well, even that regard, like even to make that connection or that thought, is already a step up from what they've done previously with Spider-Man games, where it's just purely, oh, I'm Spider-Man, I'm just going to run through and use my webs as fists. So it looks really cool. Looks really good. So that's a little honorable mention there. But that seems to be everything that we really wanted to talk about from E3. I guess the only other thing out that I thought we'd just give a quick mention to is revisiting our conversation, and just a one line from us is the Xbox One X that got announced. Is just that idea of, it looks like this is what you're saying, Nate. You were saying before that this is probably the way consoles are going to go, with this reiteration year after year.
Yeah,
Well, not
I'm
every
not
couple of
going to
years.
talk about the hardware or anything in particular because I don't really,
Care.
upgraded. Well, it's not that I don't care. Upgraded hardware in consoles is a given. If you're releasing a console and your hardware hasn't changed from your last generation, then you've completely fucking shit the bed. And that's never really happened, right? It's probably less technology jumps or less capability jumps in the Nintendo ecosystem, but everywhere else it's a really standard thing. But yeah, I think console releases will follow the trend that game releases have been following, in that there'll just be more iterations of them more frequently. It won't just be yep, you're gonna get an Xbox, Y in 2020, and then you're gonna get an Xbox Z in fucking 2026. You don't have 6 years anymore that you can wait to upgrade your consoles, and wait for upgrades in visual fidelity and stuff. As platforms move forward, and now that most consoles are using x64 coding and stuff like that, the compatibility of game releases with timing of PC releases is almost at a unison all the time. PCs are obviously largely open. You can change them at any time. You can upgrade things. If consoles want to keep up with that and compete with that, then yeah, they have to be released more frequently. That's kind of my only thought on it.
Well, in that regard, I think we're good. I think that's a wrap up on the E3 recap, guys. So thanks for tuning in, and make sure you definitely check out our giveaway. And yeah.
Thanks for coming, guys. We will see you Talking Bit episode 13.